I'm Drew Vincent. Welcome to Kickin' It, the show that takes you around North America, cities and towns, big and small. Every town has a story, and I'm hoping every town has a goalpost because I'm gonna kick 50 field goals in 50 states.
I have worked in the hospitality industry for over 30 years, from Illinois to all four corner states, and from California to Alaska, from busser to bartender all the way down to manager. And in between those two vocations, along with my blind red heeler Rusty, we are going to travel this great land. Cities and towns, big and small, we are going to find exceptional people that you don't know, sometimes in towns and places you've never heard of. Bring to light and attend events that you may have never known existed. Through this discovery, we will motivate you, captivate you, and inspire you. There is a plethora of hidden treasures just waiting to be uncovered, an endless array of stories waiting to be told, and of course, a whole landscape of football fields across North America just primed for kicking it.
I'm Drew Vincent. Come on along for the ride because we are kicking it. Hi, I'm Drew Vincent. Welcome to Kickin' It. Today we find ourselves in Juneau, Alaska, the capital city of our 49th and largest state. We're going to show you around this unique and amazing capital city located in the southeast panhandle of the last frontier. Juneau is one of only 2 U.S. state capitals not accessible by road. You can arrive here by air, you can arrive here by water via the Lynn Canal, and there's a third way to arrive in Juneau, of course, to be born here via the birth canal. This is my good friend Steve Suing. He and I met in Skagway, just north of us, about 100 miles, about 15 years ago, and he is now living here in Juneau. He works for the state legislature.
State of Alaska. I have worked for the legislature in the past.
What is the best thing about Juneau that you love?
You don't have time for the list.
Okay, what about a 30-second little
Yeah.
little blast?
I love coming to the docks and seeing all these visitors here. You know, today we've got like 4 cruise ships. We probably have, 7,000 to 8,000 people in town. And, I've lived in Southeast for 18 years. And my family comes to the docks frequently. And for just the simple fact that it's a reminder of how special this place is. To see the looks on people's faces. Today, it's rainy, it's gray, but they're rolling off of these cruise ships, or they're cruising on the docks as independent travelers, and they're looking up at Mount Juneau, and they're still taking photos. And they're nudging their partner, or they're nudging their kids, and like, oh my gosh, we just arrived in this amazing place. We're in Alaska, we're in the capital. And that vibe that happens 5 months out of the year, it actually happens 12 months out of the year, but it's the spirit of Alaska that drew me here in the first place, of adventure, opportunity, and just kind of the wildness of it.
Here is an actual functioning town. It's a government town, it's a college town, it's a family town.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of history. There's a lot to do here, and that's why you chose to make your life here.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's third largest city in Alaska.
What's second?
Fairbanks.
Oh, that's right.
So we've got 32,000 people here. Just looking across, from this cruise ship dock, you can kind of see in the distance that our city hall is right there. The state capitol is right there. My home is just, like 7 or 8 blocks there to the right. So
can we go there?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Actually, the grill is fired up.
Okay.
I think I've got some White King that I just caught this morning off of my kayak.
White King salmon.
Yeah.
Explain White King salmon. People think it's halibut.
I think it's unexplainable. It's just kind of like this. It's like the albino moose. It's one of those things that you never know if you're going to cut open and it's going to be white or red, and you're kind of excited when it's white. Actually, and to finish that off, I think I've got salmon berry, just picked this morning as well, chutney that I'm going to serve over that White King salmon this afternoon.
Okay, sold. Where else should we go?
Let's go check out the kelp salsa.
What's the name of the company?
Their company is Barnacle Foods. They make kelp salsas and kelp pickles, locally harvested and made in small batches here in Juneau, Alaska. Kelp is like seaweed and is very abundant in southeast Alaska. They go out and harvest small boats without propellers, so they're not damaging it. They hand harvest it by hand. They bring it home and then they make all this stuff in a commercial kitchen in small batches. And the salsas are 35 to 40% kelp. And the pickles are just slivers of kelp that have been pickled.
How did they figure out to make salsa from kelp? How did this happen?
A lot of people in Southeast Alaska have done this. It's not new, but they've worked with a lot of people who are really good at it to sort of refine recipes and do some different unique things with the kelp salsas. So like the campfire, which is a little spicy, they add roasted beets to it to give it a sort of smoky flavor. The green is made with tomatillos and they add celery to give it sort of a brightness. And that one tastes probably the most kelpy. And then the original is most like a traditional chips and dip salsa. And the same is true with pickles. People do that a lot. They made a sweet pickle and kelp.
What's your favorite?
I like them all. I know that's the right answer, but it's true. I think it depends on what you're serving them with. The original is kind of the gateway kelp salsa.
Okay.
I think you owe it to the original to try that first.
Okay, let's do that.
My 9-year-old who likes to be kind of the tough guy, he's like really into the fire because it's got a little bite to it, but not too much bite.
It's like an
fantastic. And this one, again,
might as well work your way down.
tomatillo. Tomatillo is my favorite.
That's my favorite on breakfast. It's really good
Oh,
with eggs,
that's
potatoes.
Foodgasm. Can you say that on camera? Oh, that is incredible.
You've made up your mind already? You haven't had all three.
Well, we're getting there. Wow.
You might feel that again.
Thank you for that.
So this is a sweet curry pickle. I'd start there. It's like a bread and butter. They add lemongrass. You can just grab it with a fork and use your fingers. Some
Okay.
people use the chip as a plate, but
Okay.
So is it? So originally it was called the Alaska Kelp Company,
correct.
and then they competed in a business competition,
The Path to Prosperity.
Path to
brand.
Prosperity. They were winners 2 years ago.
Oh,
Yes.
2 years ago.
It's not last year.
Okay.
2 years ago? I thought it was.
Maybe it was this last year.
you talk, I'll eat.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I think from a connoisseur's perspective and someone that knows the owners of this company, I think that part of that winnings went into rebranding.
Correct.
And so the rebranding is awesome. This
Yeah.
whole Barnacle thing is super cool.
Yeah, it allowed them to work with a local designer who did all of these different labels for them. They had already, as the Wild Alaska Kelp Company, they had, for the most part, narrowed down their recipes. But they just had, actually we have a few. This is where they
Old
started.
school.
Just mason jars.
You know
and
what?
Stickers.
Way cool, but definitely more marketable.
Yeah,
no
exactly.
doubt. No
so
doubt.
they won that grant, and that allowed them to hire someone that they know and love to
Fantastic.
design all that for them.
All of it delicious.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing me here, Steve. I'm gonna buy a few things now.
So I think this has been the kind of like a highlight for like this whole scene. Like there's this kind of like Alaska food truck scene that's happening here. And there's probably about 15 businesses here. And tons of like mom and pop operations, but one of kind of the quintessential one that started back in this whole corner here was Tracy's Crab Shack. I don't know if you've heard of Tracy's Crab Shack, but she's been on like major marketing blitz. So she's had the food channel up here, and a bunch of chefs have visited her place because she's got this great market. And she actually used to be a shore excursion manager for Carnival Cruises.
And then jump ship.
And saw this opportunity, said, hey, I like crab, I love Juneau, I'm gonna start this thing. And started in this little shack. That's a place called Dockside Dave's here in this corner. But she occupied this whole thing and then moved to an actual storefront just down the waterfront. But to me, like the whole kind of entrepreneurship vibe that I've been telling you about, like, there's some of it here, obviously, but to have something that's like local and year-round and people that are here year-round, kind of starting this pork place and just like stuff that's straight up from Juneau or very close to Juneau is pretty awesome.
Straight out of Juneau?
Yep.
Out of Juneau?
That's right. J-Town.
J-Town has a whole new meaning now.
That's right.
We're at one of my favorite places in the whole world in Juneau, the Red Dog Saloon. Originally, this is in the 1890s on the edge of town. They moved to here in the 1920s, moved here about 20 years ago, and 20 years ago, I spent a month here one night. Should we go in and have a beer? Let's go. Always remember, tip your bartenders, tip your waitresses, and tip your piano guy too. Right on. Long time no see. Thank you so much. So Steve, why is the state capitol in Juneau? People always seem to ask that all the time. Why have it here? There's no access by road. Why would you have the state capitol here? And what are the advantages of having it here? And why do people want to move it to Anchorage?
I think so. Originally, this building behind us, that's now the Alaska State Capitol, was opened in 1931. And it was the territorial federal building. And that's what it was built for. Construction started in 1929, finished in 1931. When it opened its doors in 1931, it was the territory, because Alaska didn't become a state until 1959, territory federal building. And at the time, it had been kind of all the resources for the federal government had been in Sitka. And because of the mining operations that were happening in Juneau, a lot of people got attracted to Juneau. And so Juneau became not only a destination, but a bit of a pass-through place. So if you think about that time, a lot of the population really wasn't into the interior of Alaska, what we now know as South Central Alaska. And most of the action, population-wise, was happening here southeast. We had big trees, we had salmon, and we had gold. There was 2 gold mines operating here in Juneau. So why would you go all the way to the interior when you could just stop in KICKIN, you could just stop in Juneau? So in that time when they put in the territorial federal building, this was kind of the center of the population of Alaska. And so, there's probably buildings that mirror this all over the country, because this was kind of no unique design. A federal contractor designed it. A company from Chicago built it. So this is the way we're building. No dome, because it wasn't built as a dome. It was built as an office building.
Got it.
And so when the state became a capital and got its when it got statehood in 1959, said, "Whoa, we got to put the capital somewhere." And they had this federal building, so that was one of the gifts to Alaska. Said, hey, we've got this federal building that's located in Juneau. Juneau still was kind of the epicenter of sorts. Of course, oil hadn't been discovered yet up in South Central, up into the northern parts of Alaska. So it just kind of made sense. We've got this federal building here. You're now a state. You have to have a state capitol building. We're going to give you what was a territorial federal building and make it your capital.
Beautiful. Now, what about the people now that want to move it to the Anchorage area?
I think access is one of the things that Juneau battles all the time. I mean, you need to come here by plane, boat, or be born here. And so access to the capital is one of the things that's thrown out as a reason to move it. But I think as we move further into this age, access is not as big of a deal.
Right.
You can get on your laptop and you can pull up a committee room and watch the meeting.
Right.
You can pick up the phone. I mean, access is one of the things that has kind of sold as why it needs to be moved, because people don't have access. I think it's become less of an issue, especially right now as the state kind of tackles a bit of a fiscal crisis and we don't have a lot of money per se. I think the last time they did some kind of study, was $1 billion to move kind of this infrastructure somewhere else.
But they like being sequestered here. Is that what you're saying?
I don't think that they would say that on camera,
Okay.
but that's the feeling I get. And if you live in Fairbanks and you have a choice in February to be in a lot of darkness and minus 40, or you come to Juneau where it could be a balmy 35 and snow overnight, and you can go skiing at a beautiful ski resort. Juneau. Yeah, exactly.
Well, and a lot of the U.S. state capitals are not in the largest population centers, because if you do that, you look all around the U.S., you put the state capital in the largest population center, the rest of the state does not get a voice in government. And if you take the capital out of Juneau, Southeast Alaska.
Yeah, if the state capital were to move, not only would it move all the state jobs that are associated with state governments that are here in Juneau, but I think a lot of the federal jobs would go as well, because I think they're located here because, it is the state capital and you do have that access that you wouldn't have as a federal employee if the capital was in Anchorage or Wasilla or wherever they took it.
Keep it here in Juneau. I can't believe it's raining in Juneau. Does it happen very often?
Liquid sunshine. This is the authentic experience. You don't come to... you would be upset if you came to a rainforest and it wasn't raining.
Okay. I'm not upset.
Favorite beer of all time.
Well, it's hard to believe that we are drinking beer again in Alaska. This is Andy, our spokesman here for Alaskan Brewing Company. Now, Andy, this is my favorite beer of all time.
Oh, that's great to hear. Thanks.
And I live in Carmel, California in the wintertime. And many years ago in the Safeway, I did a whiplash when I saw Alaskan beer at the Safeway in Carmel, California.
I think we've been there since 2007, I want to say, maybe even earlier. We've been in California for quite a while.
And how many states currently?
19. We're moving into Iowa just this month. So we're going to be in 19 states.
And I've been in Illinois too as well.
Looks like it's in the drawing board there, yeah.
But we don't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
All right, Andy, I want to show you something. I want to get your reaction on this. Okay, you ready?
I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. Okay.
Turn for 1 second.
All right, I'm a little scared, a little frightened. We'll see what's going on here. Ah, very good.
Tell me what this is.
Very good. This is our original label for Alaskan Amber, but it originally was called Chinook Alaskan Brewing Company. And we had to change this because 2 years into operation, we got a cease and desist letter from a Chinook winery that was in Washington State. So we said, okay, and we changed it to Alaskan Brewing Company. Probably a pretty good change for us.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think it's a much more marketable name.
Not a bad cease and desist to get, actually, as you look back, but it was a really traumatic experience
for
the
sure.
folks who were here at the time to have to change the name.
Did it just come out of the blue? All of a sudden you got a cease and desist letter?
I had no idea about it.
Oh, you weren't there, yeah.
I wasn't there, but they had no idea about it. It did come out of the blue. Just got that letter. Then they started talking to the folks, and it was understandable.
For sure.
But yep. So that's a 1987 apron you got there.
Well, here's where this came from. So I was working at the Westmark Hotel in Skagway in 1990.
Okay.
And so when did the switch over?
88.
It was 88.
Yeah.
So these were left over at the Westmark Hotel. Shocking.
Yeah. Still, the Alaskan Amber logo still represents that fishing vessel, a trawler, a Southeast Alaska trawler on it.
I love it.
Kind of something that exemplifies the lifestyle of living in Southeast Alaska. So many people here tied to the ocean and tied to the environment through fishing. So that's something that we're really proud to kind of carry that imagery on in our packaging.
Well, I'm glad I could surprise you with this because I put this on in Alaska after I have a couple of these beers and then I burn fish on the grill.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Very good. Yeah.
Now, what's your favorite new thing that you guys are working on right now for beer-wise? I know there's so many.
Well, yeah, there's a ton. One thing that's really fun is we're doing a Brewer's Choice series of beers that goes into our sampler pack. And those are small batch beers, and they're places where our brewers can really experiment with different fun beers. So we have like a Schwartz beer that's going into that. We've got fruit beers that goes into that. We're experimenting with spruce tips quite a bit. So we have things like spruce IPA that's going into that pack. So really fun experimental beers go into that. So that's a really fun thing for us to try here.
Why do you think this whole home brew movement is taking off now, and what do you think is fueling it now?
Well, it's just I think it's an awakening in the palate of what's happening in beer. You know, people for years have associated great taste with things like wine and those kinds of things. And now people are understanding the variety of types of beer that are out there and the ways that you can manipulate how you taste different things, the ways that beer pair with great food. And so homebrewing is a fun thing because you can pretty cheaply get together a homebrewing kit. Everyone's homebrewing kit is different, so that's really fun because it's very creative. Even in the building of the kit, it's really creative. And then you can do it in a small amount of space. People do it in tiny little apartments and little closets. And then it's just a blast because you're sharing something you made with friends. And so that's a fun part of the home brewing thing. For us in craft brewing and making commercial craft brewing, it comes out of that ethic of home brewing, that creativity and that fun. But we bring a level of consistency and quality and over time to what kind of home brewers do, at home. So we're able to kind of take that fun creativity and fun with food and fun with friends and all that, and take it to a level of really high quality and high standards.
And your water here is pretty good too.
So that's the thing about us. That's our ace in the hole. All of our water is from the Juneau ice field, filters in. We just use city water, but it's basically, there's real chunks of glacier right in here,
Well, the city water here in Juneau
is
is better than any bottled water you can find on the planet.
And that's the thing, and people who haven't been to Juneau don't even quite understand how no one in Juneau drinks bottled water, because you just open up the tap and you've got like the most tremendous water in the world. So yeah.
What are some of your challenges for producing a product here in the location of Juneau with no road access?
Yeah, so that's the thing. Everything's got to be shipped in and out. So we're behind the 8 ball whenever we get to a market that's outside of Juneau, because we have to barge every single thing in except for the water, and barge every single thing out, including the water. So that's the main challenge. And what we've had to do is be as efficient as possible, and that's caused us to kind of go through a lot of innovation. So we've looked for places all along our brewing process since we've been in business to innovate, to be that kind of innovative leader that thinks of things in a different way because we have these unique problems. And I mean, one example of that is what to do with byproducts of brewing. So one of the main byproducts of brewing is the grain that's left over once you've brewed a beer. You brew a beer and you end up with the liquid, but all this grain is then left over, and we call that spent grain. So most places take their spent grain to a nearby farm, and the cows eat it for food, and the farm even pays the brewer for the spent grain, so it's a great relationship. There's no cows in Juneau. So we've always had to ship our grain south. That was costing us a lot of money for a lot of years, and we installed a couple of different pieces of equipment here that allowed us to have a really fine grain that we dry, and we started burning that grain. So now, since 2013, we're the only brewery in the world that takes all of its spent grain, puts it into a 100% fuel-fired spent grain boiler. So the only fuel used is spent grain in the boiler. It creates the steam that runs our brew deck, that makes the beer, that makes the spent grain, that feeds into the furnace, that makes the steam that runs the brew deck. So that's called beer-powered beer. Really? And that's like a big innovation for us. So it's an example of the challenge of being up here in this remote area where it's kind of one of the craziest places to try to brew beer and take it to the lower 48 market. We've taken that and made it into a business efficiency where we're saving about 60% on the diesel fuel we would otherwise use to make our steam. We're now just using our spent grain to make that steam.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
I think in the dictionary, under the word sustainable, would be what you just said.
And it's true. I mean, we look for areas to be sustainable because not only because it's responsible, but because it's a business advantage for us to be sustainable, because we have to be, because we're in this remote area. We don't have easy access to getting rid of things or to having cheap energy. We have to think about all that really carefully, and that causes us to innovate.
I don't think people really get the idea of where Juneau's located and those challenges that you just presented, of how difficult it is, and you pulled it off.
Yeah, 1,000 miles by sea from Seattle, right? So there's no road coming here, so yeah, you got to think of other ways to approach it.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Love
thank
your beer.
you.
Keep going.
Cheers.
Congratulations on your success.
Hey, good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck. I don't know. It's wet, slippery. It's not good conditions for field goal. We'll see.
It's all good.
Okay, all right, I'm behind you. 100%.
We can do other takes if
These
need
will
be.
these will help.
Thank you
These
very
help. Yeah,
much.
you won't have to stretch now.
There you go.
Yeah, all right, very good.
Well, after a great day here in Juneau, it's time to get down to business. We are at Thunder Mountain High School here in Juneau, home of the Falcons. It's time for some kicking it.
We are going to travel this great land, cities and towns big and small. We are going to find exceptional people that you don't know, sometimes in towns and places you've never heard of. Bring to light and attend events that you may have never known existed. Through this discovery, we will motivate you, captivate you, and inspire you. There is a plethora of hidden treasures just waiting to be uncovered, an endless array of stories waiting to be told, and of course, a whole landscape of football fields across North America just primed for kicking it.
I'm Drew Vincent. Come on along for the ride because we are kicking it.